Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today, we prepared 3 brand new stories for you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. We knock off at 4. This happened a while back, and it still makes me giggle when I think back to it. A husband and wife work where I am and are always treating everyone like lower-class scum. I manage a small team of people in the warehouse as their supervisor. One afternoon, I was checking on the guys in the warehouse and spotted an SUV parked in the loading bay. I asked, "Whose is it?" and they said the husband parked it there and never came back to move it. As it had been parked in the loading zone for hours, already several trucks had attempted delivery but had to manually unload down the side of the dock as the SUV was in the way. I decided to send an email to the wife and husband asking them to politely move the vehicle as it was preventing us from doing our job, and I didn't want to see their car get damaged by any trucks unloading in the dock. The wife responded with a huge rant and rave saying her husband was using the dock to unload and he'd move it when he was finished. Mind you, the car had been there already most of the day when I sent my email asking them to move it, and it was close to knockoff time. I copied in my manager and replied, "My guys knock off at 4 and will close down the dock area and hope the car would be moved before then." She replied that the car can be parked there all day and it's not harming anyone, and if we damaged her car, we'd be sued, etc., etc. Another long ranting email. I went back into the warehouse and told my guys to shut down at knockoff time, which involves bringing the large bins in via forklift into the loading dock and locking the wheels down to stop them rolling out. We left at 4 with the SUV surrounded by our massive bins with locked wheels. Let's just say she was not happy when they finally decided to collect their car. Another long ranting email came through while I was home, and my manager finally jumped in by replying to the email chain, "Don't park there again if it's inconvenient for you to move the bins after hours." They've stopped parking in the loading zone ever since. And our second story. I can stoop to your level. This is a twofold revenge. Part is revenge on my behalf by someone else. The other part is not mine, but was perpetrated by one of my clients who told me what he'd done almost 10 years later. I've been in real estate in Chicago, actually South Side and South-Southwest suburbs, for nearly 20 years now. So I'm helping this guy sell his condo. The place was absolutely gorgeous. The guy was a general contractor, bought it as a dump, gutted it, and turned it into a palace. What makes this even more entertaining is that the guy was 84 years old. His wife died, he sold his house, bought the condo, and figured he'd die there. Nope, he ended up meeting some spry little 77-year-old hottie, and they were going to get married and live at her house. Let's call the seller Mike. A guy who we'll call Big Effing A-Hole, BFA, comes to see the condo, which is somewhat overpriced, but it was severely overimproved, and I thought we could get that price. I didn't notice BFA's appointment time when I went to visit Mike for a signature on a price reduction, so I just happened to be there when BFA shows up. BFA shows up and doesn't have an agent with him. This is a no-no, but since I'm there, I walk him through. He mentions that he called his realtor because he saw my sign, so this wasn't a property that his agent actually found for him. Oh well, whatever. He seems unimpressed and leaves. Mike drops the price to $235,000 and wants $225,000 minimum because he doesn't want to owe anything after closing. BFA's agent calls me and says BFA wants to make an offer, but she's busy. She wants me to meet with her client to write up an offer. I point out the legal issues with this, and she's like, "I won't say anything if you don't." I call my broker, not the same one in the previous story I wrote, and explain the situation. He asks his wife, also a realtor, to handle writing up the offer. Illinois allows dual agency, where I can help a buyer and seller at the same time for the same property, but I can't do it for a realtor with another brokerage. After my broker's wife gets done, BFA tells her he's having second thoughts and to hold off. During the next 2 weeks, BFA shows up at Mike's condo 7 times, unannounced, no appointment, and has no realtor with him. Mike is a nice guy and thinks he's got a hot buyer, so he lets the guy in to look around, measure, write notes, take pictures, etc. I had no idea this was going on, or I would have put a stop to it. Anyway, BFA talks to Mike, who's ready to move. BFA says he knows Mike only bought it for $100,000 3 years earlier. Mike tells the guy that the lowest he's going is $225, because he took out a construction loan and put about $100,000 into the full gut remodel with high-end materials and appliances. I'm not kidding. The place was spectacular. 3-bedroom, 3-bath, living room, huge chef's kitchen, wet bar, jacuzzi tubs, formal dining room, vaulted ceilings, family room, loft, and every room was wired for phone, cable, surround sound, and internet, which was relatively new at the time. Mike also showed BFA the net sheet I gave him, which showed that at $225,000, Mike would walk away with $1,900. BFA calls his realtor, who calls me to have me make the offer that my broker's wife wrote up. However, BFA calls my broker's wife and tells her to lower the offer from $230,000 to $223,000 because that old man can afford to bring $100 to closing. The way the numbers work based on the net sheet and market time. Mike still would have walked away with a few bucks. I get the offer from my broker's wife, and she tells me to enjoy the little gift, and I'm not taking anything away. I'll explain this later. I present the offer to Mike, and Mike tells me to just hold on to it because he has another appointment scheduled and wants to see if they'll make an offer. They don't, but Mike waits anyway. At this point, BFA has inconvenienced him multiple times and gave a low, "I'm going to screw this old man so he walks away with nothing" offer after having a very frank discussion. BFA is calling every day to ask about his offer. I can tell that he loves it. His agent? Nowhere to be found. Never got a call from her. Finally, 3 weeks later, BFA's calls have gone from innocent inquiry to angry screaming. No, there's no time limit on Illinois real estate contracts unless you put one in, and he didn't. Mike finally signs off because he feels bad for me. He would have left BFA hanging another 3 weeks if he didn't feel bad about me having to deal with the calls. BFA does his inspection and tries to renegotiate. Mike tells him to drop dead since Mike is a general contractor and knows the work is done to code, despite what BFA's inspector said. By the way, BFA's inspector was a friend of his. BFA still moves forward. BFA drags his feet with his bank, and the closing keeps getting pushed back. Mike is pissed at BFA. Finally, we close. Instead of being in a room together, Mike and BFA are in separate rooms because they hate each other at this point, and no one wants an explosion. BFA tries to renegotiate at the closing. Mike literally yells, he wants $100 because I don't have low-flow toilets. I'll give him $100, but I'm going to jam it up his butt to my effing elbow. I don't know if BFA heard it, but I would have loved to have seen the look on his face. Now the revenge had on my behalf. The closer comes in near the end and says, Jane Doe from XYZ Realty called to tell me to send her commission check to her office. I don't see that she's getting a check. I give her a copy of the contract and addenda and show her what my broker's wife added to it. Not only did she have him sign an exclusive buyer-broker agreement naming her as his designated agent, she also got him to write and sign, in his own handwriting, I inquired about this property because I saw OP's sign. My agent didn't accompany me when OP showed me the unit. Broker's wife drafted my offer. This basically showed that the other realtor didn't do her job, so I wasn't paying her. Buyer's realtors are paid part of the seller's agent commission. So I explained all this, and on the advice of the seller's attorney, I amended my commission statement to give the other realtor a $50 referral fee. She cashed the check and called for weeks demanding her money. The Chicago Association of Realtors reviewed her case and told her to get lost. As a side note, many years later, I saw that she had her license revoked for multiple ethics violations. And now Mike's revenge. About 10 years later, Mike's new wife died, and he called me to sell that house because he was going to move into an assisted living facility. While talking with Mike, he told me about the things he did before leaving the condo. The fans had no chains or switches. They were operated with remote controls. He taped the remotes to the top of the fan blades and turned them on high before leaving the last time. He removed the super high-quality garbage disposal that was super quiet and installed the cheapest and loudest one he could find. He shut off all the water valves for the sinks and toilets. He poured straight bleach into the toilet tanks. He claims that will destroy the mechanisms in the toilet tank or at least drastically reduce the life expectancy. He put water restrictors in the showers. He removed the wheels from the bottom of the sliding glass doors and left them in the kitchen drawer, assuming BFA would just throw them out, assuming they were junk. He turned the little pins on the igniter for the attached grill so they wouldn't create a spark. He disconnected the igniter on the oven. He didn't break it, he just loosened the connection. I think there were a few other things, but I can't remember what they were. He said he got a nasty letter from BFA's attorney about the doors, oven, and grill, demanding to be paid for the service calls for the repairs. He ignored it and never heard anything else about it. And our last story. Rules are rules, boss. Gotta go. My friend was the one to show up a half hour early before work and was a commission-based salesman with salary, just like the other salesman who would always show up barely on time to hours late. Friday night comes along and management decides to hold a meeting to announce the new policy. If you're late, you go home for the day, and if you're late 3 days a month, you're fired. The weekend goes by and everyone is on time. During the week, a few people call out sick right as the store opens. The weekend is coming up and my buddy is scheduled for Saturday, but not Sunday or Monday, and he's going to Disneyland with his wife, who has Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. Friday night, he packs his wife's car. Saturday comes along and he's in the parking lot half an hour early. He pops in his favorite cassette, fires up a joint, and proceeds to hotbox his car. He walks in 5 minutes late, reeking of pot, looks at the clock, and then to his boss in front of the whole sales floor and loudly says, "Oops, I'm late. Guess I need to go home," with a crap-eating grin on his face. The bosses start backpedaling the policy and started to tell him it wasn't for him and they'll let it slide. He loudly stated that it wouldn't be fair if they made an exception for him and that he would see them Tuesday. When he got back to work on Tuesday, the policy was gone. Same company, years later, hired some absolute genius of an accountant who sold the idea to management that employees were making more than management and that they should go from commission to salary. All the top salesmen jumped ship ASAP. The remaining bottom feeders got a raise compared to their normal salary and commission, and they didn't have to do crap all day to get it. Less than a year later, they shut their doors for the last time. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.